Hey guys, Robert here. Well, let's get back to some more and possibly, probably, okay, definitely wrap up Crimson Diamond and see if I can actually get the perfect ending, shall we? Because this game has been so good. Just so damn good. Just a moment. There we go. Where did I leave off? Oh, right. Where did I leave off? Just a second. I want to make sure I got this right. Smokehouse matches one core visit. There we go. No, wait, that wasn't it. No. Belongs to Corbett. Where did I save? More tomorrow, but until just a moment, everyone. I just realized I didn't save it at the right spot. I don't think. Wait, did I? So I'll continue on more tomorrow. But until then, thank you guys so much for. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to redo chapter 5 just to be on the safe side, guys, because I saved at the worst spot. So let's redo chapter 5, shall we? My mistake. And no problem, no worries whatsoever. Just a moment. Make sure I got everything in place. Okay, so let's go back over chapter 5 again, shall we? So we already know what happened, that Evan Richards has been abducted, has been taken away. We know that part. So let's go back over this as we. Wait, what? I got off the game. It kept sending me warnings. I'm off it. What are you talking about, Tris? What are you talking about, Tris? Wait, Tris, you're kind of giving me a weirded out. What are you talking about? I got off the game. What game? Uh, Trisky, explain what you mean. Oh! Oh, you were playing a game at the same time I was streaming. No, Tris. I am so sorry. I didn't even realize it. It didn't give me any notifications whatsoever, Tris. It didn't give me any notification. I had no clue. It just went right ahead with me in the first place. I had no issues whatsoever. I'm just looking around for my saved game file, but okay. What game were you playing anyway, out of curiosity? Examine scuff. Let's go back to examining the scuff. The direction of the scuff, we already went over this. And these scuff marks were made with a rubber-soled shoes. I'm not exactly sure whose shoes made these scuff marks. I'll need to look into that. But yeah, Tris, as far as I know, it didn't give me any issues whatsoever getting on here. So none whatsoever. So yeah. But anyway, not exactly sure whose made these scuff marks. I'll need to look into that. Mr. Richards, uh, um, Mr. Richards could have made the scuff marks, but I'll need to find out what kind of shoes he wears. All right. So right log. Decanter. You peer at the share remains of what is clearly the crystal decanter from the dining room. I last saw this in Mr. Richards' hands as he was seated right here on the jetty. What on earth happened here? Oh my, the decanter would have needed to be picked up and thrown down with some force to break it like this. I think I see some oily imprints. I wonder who's been handling this decanter recently. Besides Mr. Richard, that is, because I doubt he would have broken the decanter intentionally. You think you can see an oily mark on the outside of the overturned whiskey glass. That could be a fingerprint. You carefully dust the crystal decanter fragment. 2 fingerprints. Ah, fingerprint. Just a sec. You tear off 2 pieces of tape. Yep, got that. Okay, I'll take this print. Besides, at a potential crime scene, I really ought to not remove evidence. Upon close inspection, you ascertain from a size 14. First of all, I need to determine whether Mr. Richard himself made any of the shoe prints I found. Did Jack encounter Mr. Richard during this incident? Oh, just a sec. Okay, let's continue on, shall we? Did Jack encounter Mr. Richards during this incident? I should find him and ask him about his shoe size. What is that? And who knows what size Nessa's feet are under that long skirt? I need to investigate. Where have I seen Kimmy walking around outside? Could she have left some shoe prints on moist ground? I saw going over about whose shoes we should find. Liquid here is yet to be absorbed in the dock. Even in the moonlight, you can see that it's a golden yellow. What a waste. The liquid on the jetty is definitely alcohol and not river water. Of course, yeah, find out that he couldn't have fallen in, all that. Uh-oh. You see some possible signs of a struggle. It's just going back through all these to make sure I get all the points. It sounds like I got a storm coming in. Multi-size came from a size 14, but there are a few here that look like size 8. Upon close examination of the scuff, you conclude soap was dragged here. And it was a bit of a struggle by the looks of it. The scuff marks on the jetty are clearer and made on the wood jetty. If I can identify those ones, it would help me identify the ones here. Yeah, here was the follicles intact. I'm great. Only Nessa has that hair. Take care. This might be useful bit of evidence. The scrapes in the grass are deep, as if someone was literally digging their heels in to resist an outside force. The scuffs and scrapes are definitely leading away from this part of the forest and down the eastern path. I need to identify the scuff marks on the jetty. Those ones, yep, I get it. Yep, we know this. Oh boy. Eek! Oh, wonder who the button belongs to, I wonder. Alright, take. Uh-oh. These shooters came from a thought. Yep, we know 4 and 8. Oh, Nancy, I'm busy here. Please step outside. Nathan is frantically rummaging in the smokehouse. Nathan, Mr. Richard, where's Mr. Richards? What happened? I don't know. That's why I'm trying to find out. If you don't have any helpful information, please leave me to figure this out. Oh, of course. On one hand, I'm relieved that I didn't stumble into anything ghastly, but on the other, where is Mr. Richards? And what's happened to him? I'll need to come to some conclusion and present them to Nathan. Maybe then he'll let me into the smokehouse and I can continue my investigation. I wonder who dropped this metal button I found near the smokehouse. I'm gonna need to figure out who's involved in the scene I found at the jetty. Okay then, well, I gotta go and get myself caught up on some things. So first things first. Ask about Kit. Yep, we went through all this. We went through this yesterday. We already went through this. Ah, I forgot to lock my door again. I've had more than enough of your company, Nancy. Please leave me to my work. Just a moment, please. So I got his. He's the size 12, all right. All right, got that. All right then. I'm just getting myself caught up to where I last saved off. So that's why I'm just breathing through things at the moment. That's where I find out about the button. Alright then. Now let's go find other shoes, shall we? Okay, so we got his shoes now, and his seem to match some of them out. So for those who would appreciate your attempt to throw me up conversation, Okay, examine men's boots. You take a look at the men's boot in the right-hand cubby. Thanks to your loop, you can clearly see the initials ER written on it, which meant that Mr. Richards ran at size 12. These boots belong to Mr. Richard. Rubber soles, too. You also appear at the boots on the left-hand cubby. Jack's at size 12. And these must be Jack's boots. Those have leather soles. Aha! The shoopers I found in the jetty aren't Evan's. It doesn't appear he walked away from the jetty. The scuff marks I found on the jetty leading away from the jetty were made by rubber sole and soled soles. These rubber-soled men's boots belong to Mr. Richards. He's a practical man. I recall he was wearing a similar pair of brown boots the last time I saw him at the jetty. Uh-oh, I think Evan was forcibly dragged away. I did see Mr. Richards on the jetty. I wonder if he left any fingerprints behind. I already went there. Compare prints. You closer examination of the fingerprints you obtained from the overturned drink glass you included in Evan's glass. You've revealed the two fingerprints on the fragments of the crystal decanter. One of these decanter fingerprints belonged to Evan, the other to Nessa. Aha! The fingerprints on the glass jar belong to Nessa. Oh, we already went over that. So someone stepped on there. Shoopin looks like a woman's shoes with a bit of heel. It could be from Kimmy's or Nessa's. I could figure out either Kimmy or Nessa's shoe size. I could figure out whose shoe this belonged to. And there's some oily spots there too. Oh boy, is it raining. Well, where have we known to where Kimmy and Nathan have been? Nope, not there. Oh, that was Jack's. No, wrong side. Considering I witnessed Nathan making these shoopers, I can conclude he wears size 16. On clothes inspection of Kimmy's shoe print, you conclude she's a 6 or a 6.5. Ah, now that I know Kimmy's shoe size, the woman's shoe print I saw in the study must belong to Nessa. So Nessa wears a size 8. Got it. Nessa's shoe prints match one of the shoe prints I found outside the smokehouse. Now that I've collected all the shoe sizes of everyone in the lodge who could have made those shoe prints by the smokehouse, I can definitively say that Nessa had something to do with her brother's disappearance. Fantastic. I've gotten everyone's shoe sizes. Corvus wears size 14. He was involved in the altercation at the jetty. Nessa and Corvus' shoe prints were found leading away from the jetty. Not to mention, their shoe prints are all around the smokehouse. According to what I deduce, Nessa and Corvus attacked Mr. Richards at the jetty, and dragged him into the smokehouse. The shoe prints are coming all over the jetty and leading into the smokehouse. The scuff marks I found came from rubber-soled shoes of the kind that Mr. Richard wears. No one else at the lodge wears shoes or boots with rubber soles. One of Corvus's vest buttons somehow ended up near the smokehouse. Some of Nessa's hair was caught in the tree between the jetty and the smokehouse. That's definitely unusual. Nessa and Corvus were discussing something about a will. But whose? Oh, but I remember overhearing a conversation between them and looking up for Evan and Nessa's father's will. Could this have something to do with that? I'm satisfied with my investigation so far. It's time to go inside the smokehouse and share what I've learned with Nathan. All right, baby, be careful. Yep, I already did that. So let's go talk to Nathan about what we figured out. Nathan, I have a theory about what happened to Evan. I'm listening. There are shoe prints all over the jetty leading into the smokehouse. Yes, I saw those, but I have no idea who those could belong to. I do. I did a bit of detective work and learned the shoe size of everyone in the lodge. You did? I certainly did. And according to my findings, I've concluded that Nessa and Corvus dragged Mr. Richards off the jetty and into the smokehouse. That makes a lot of sense to me, Nancy, but where is he now? That's what we need to find out. You're absolutely right about that. Please let me take a look in here and see what I can find. You've done very well, Nancy. Maybe you can figure out where Evan is now. So far, I've come up empty-handed. Thanks, Nathan. I'll try not to let you down. If you find anything of significance, let me know as soon as possible. Will do. Oh, one more thing. Yes, Nancy? Nessa seems to be desperately looking for something. I'm not sure what. She's made a mess of the study. There are papers all over. I think it has something to do with the will. I heard them talking about it in the parlor last night. A will? Come to think of it, they were discussing Evan and Nessa's father's will. That was after dinner yesterday. I need to go talk to Jack about all this. Meet us in the study when you're finished here. You can tell us about the arrest as well and the mineralogist report then. Good luck, Nancy. Good luck to you, too. Okay, what have we here? Thanks to your lope, you can clearly see that the yellow fibers on the floor of the smokehouse are from hempen rope. Just a sec. The fibers have broken off into small twisted strands, possibly caused by friction. What or who could have done this? Could it be that Mr. Richards was tied up here in the smokehouse? Uh-oh. Those are cookie crumbs. These look like crumbs from the cookies that Jack was baking earlier. I even seen the bits of jam. There's symbols marked in something sticky and red on the smokehouse wall. The symbol appears to be a circle within a circle. The small circle is usually filled with the red substance. Uh-oh. I wonder what the symbol is painted with. It's definitely not paint. It's sticky, drippy red, and a bit chunky. Eek! Wondering if you'll regret it, you carefully smell the dripping, sticky-looking red symbol on the wall. Oh, smells like raspberries. Well, that's a relief. It's raspberry jam. There's jagged fragments of Jordan almonds scattered over the table. Why in the world would Jordan almonds be in the smokehouse? You carefully dust the Jordan almond fragments for fingerprints. Amazingly, you're able to recover a partial fingerprint from one of the larger pieces. You carefully apply it. You mark this fingerprint. So, compare print. After comparing it all, you've obtained it, you conclude Ness is the one who crushed these almonds in Jordan almonds in the smokehouse. Up, crushed the almonds on the table. Mr. Richards allergic to nuts. Could it be she was trying to weaponize them against him? Maybe that's why Nessa brought the Jordan almonds in the first place. She could have been scheming this entire time. Judging from the frayed ropes, Mr. Richards could have been tied up in the smokehouse after he disappeared from the jetty. I think Mr. Richards partially freed himself and painted the symbol with the raspberry jam. He took care to conceal the symbol under the table. It could indicate where he was taken next. The symbol looks like the sunbread cookies that I saw Jack baking, and their middles were filled with raspberry jam. I remember Jack saying that Mr. Richards likes to stash the cookies in his pockets, and I did find cookie crumbs on the floor in the smokehouse. But what does Helen Grata mean? I should ask someone. I should talk to Nathan and Jack about all of this. Well, not yet. Oh, Saba crystal, but these are a little too small for me to examine. So that's to be expected. So if I were looking for other minerals mixed in with the salt, doing like this is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Oh, or white garnet or quartz. Hmm. Weird. That is very weird, Pika. But yeah. So far, we're coming up onto the, I definitely know I'll be wrapping up today. Still, this is good field work. Basically, this girl's Um, um, studying rocks. What's it called again? I'll remember it later. But yeah, so keep moving on. Now we can go check on So let's eavesdrop, shall we? That hussy, that harlot, that strumpet! Where could she have hidden my brooch? I've looked everywhere. Nessa, we can't be hanging around so much longer. I've finished writing the new will. You've gotten Albert's report. We're finished here. I know that, and I don't need reminding. Once we're finished searching here, we'll get back to Evan. Make him sign. Shh. Who knows who's listening? The walls have ears. Yes, yes. Corvus wrote a new will? I should see about that. I bet he's got it stored in that satchel of his. Alright, let's sneak away. Alright. Let's check everywhere around. Examine the bed. Nope. Suppose it wouldn't make sense for Corvus to hide satchel key in Jack's bed. Still, it's good to be thorough. After searching through all the drawers, you find moth-eaten socks, loose buttons, single shoelaces, and other sort of bric-a-brac. You didn't find a key of any kind. Not here either. I should keep looking. Yep, nothing. Suppose under his pillow would have been obvious and not particularly secured. Where's that satchel key? There is only so many places it could be. The writing doesn't have any drawers, which simplifies your search somewhat. Still, you meticulously examine every surface. You wrap the wood with your knuckles, but the desk is built solidly as it seems. It's a lovely desk, but it doesn't contain what I require. Go to sir, examine the chair beside the writing desk. It also yields nothing. I'm not about to give up yet. Not until I'm satisfied, I perform the thorough search. Check the trash. You gingerly sift through the contents of it. You don't find the satchel key. I'm satisfied with my search for the Corvus satchel. I don't think it's here. He's got to be carrying it. Now the question is, how do I get it? Well, we gotta make his clothes messy, of course. Hey, Tavia, how's it going? Let's fill the mug up. Now, let's go spill some water. Here's Carlos. Now, how did I get the satchel key from him? He must have it in one of his pockets. Oh, whoopsie! What have you done? You clumsy girl! You soaked me through! I'm so sorry, Mr. Shaw. I'm such a lummox. Fortunately, I packed a second set of clothes. It looks much the same as this. Hurry up and change then. You need to help me find my brooch before... Well, anyway, get back here quick. Like, right. Excuse me, ladies. Corvus exits the room to change the clothes. Not knowing what to do, you stand awkwardly and wait for him to return. All the while, Nessa continues to go through Margot's things. Soon enough, Corvus returns, clad in identical vest and trousers. There, you see? It's like it didn't even happen. But do keep away from me, Miss Maple. I don't have another fresh set of clothes. Of course, and again, I'm very sorry. Just stay out of our way, won't you? Will do. Okay, now let's go get that key, shall we? Yep, are finally dated and kept immaculately clean. The vest and trousers are decently damp. You feel a twinge of guilt. Oh, one of the metal buttons on the vest is missing. I'm satisfied with my investigation so far. It's time to go. Okay, we already did that. The guilt is somewhat assuaged by the gratification you feel. Find the key to the satchel. Take key. Reach in the vest and take the. I'll just borrow this key for a little bit. Unlock the satchel. Open satchel. No, search satchel. You open Corvus' satchel and eagerly examine its contents. Aside from pens and a few personal items, there are 2 documents that draw your eye. There's a mineralogical report in here, signed by Albert. There's also a will in here. Uh-oh. Take the will. I'll just shift some papers around to make it look less obvious that anything was taken. Take report. Hopefully Corvus won't notice that this is missing. There are still plenty of papers in the satchel. Close satchel. Lock satchel. Return key. Now let's examine will. The last will and testament details what should happen to Evan Richards' property and possessions upon his death. This document says that everything goes to Nessa. That's surprising considering their strained relationship. Your eyebrows raise as you reach the end of the will. It's been signed by Corvus Shaw with Nessa Crabbe signing as witness. There's a blank line under which is written Evan Richards. It appears that Evan has yet to sign this document. The entirety of the will appears to be in Corvus's handwriting. This looks pretty fishy to me. After carefully studying the report, you are surprised to conclude that despite the gorgeous penmanship and Albert Respa's florid signature, it's extremely poorly written. This is nearly nonsense. It reads like Albert inserted mineralogical words at random without knowing their meanings, and he's trying to hide this fact with fancy language. Even still, I have a hard time believing that the report was written by a mineralogical expert. The fine paper and fancy seal might fool a casual observer or harried government officials eager to rubber stamp stacks of paperwork off their desks. The report does conclude that the land of which Crimson Lodge is built is rich with diamonds. Interesting. Wait a minute. I overheard that conversation between Nathan and Albert in the boathouse. Nathan paid Albert for a mineralogical report that states that there are no diamonds in Crimson. Something fishy's going on here. I should ask Nathan about the report I found. I wonder what he'll have to say about it. Nessa met up with Albert in the gazebo, and she paid him for a mineralogical report to be written. I bet Nessa gave it to Corvus for safekeeping, so it's the report I'm holding right now. I should ask Nathan about this. Okay, now let's go talk to Nathan about everything. Ah, yes. Nessa brought some Jordan almonds into the lodge and put them in a bowl in the parlor. She knows Mr. Richards is allergic to nuts ever since they were kids. Pretty inconsiderate, if you ask me. Mr. Richards is allergic to nuts. Could it be Nessa was trying to weaponize them to use against him? Maybe that's why Nessa brought the Jordan almonds in the first place. She could have been scheming this entire time. I baked cookies recently, yeah. Mr. Richard eats tons of them, keeps them in his pockets even. They're called thumbprint cookies in English, but they're also called Helen and Grata. That's a Swedish word. What does Helena Grata mean? Oh, right. It means raspberry cave. Oh. Why weren't you at the meeting with Ranger Murdoch? Ah, yes. That's a big artwork. I'm not allowed off the reservation without a pass from the Indian agent. None of us are. I'd lose my Indian status if I'm caught. Sometimes we choose to lose our status if we think it could benefit our families to work elsewhere or earn a degree. But right now, it's not the best choice for me and my family, so I made myself scarce. I'm sorry. I had no idea. Thank you, Miss Maple. We're working to make things better for future generations. Aww. I have this mineralogical report that Albert wrote. What do you think of it? Nathan looks a bit shocked. May I see it? Where did you get this? You hand the mineralogical report to Nathan. He scrutinizes it intensely. He looks upset. Nancy, may I keep this? I'm afraid not, Nathan. There are awfully strange things going on around here, and this is part of it, I'm sure. You see, I overheard your conversation with Albert in the boathouse. I know you paid Albert to prepare a mineralogical report that states the exact opposite of this one, that there are no diamonds in Crimson. Nessa paid Albert for a mineralogical report to be written. I bet it's the one I've just shown you. The report states that there are diamonds in Crimson. After reading this report, I have my doubts that Albert is as qualified a mineralogist as he claims, although his kit was legitimately high quality for his role. Not to mention, the fieldwork he conducted seemed more focused on a single irrelevant specimen and nothing else. Something fishy's going on around here, so if you don't mind, I'll be keeping this report, at least until I figured out what's going on. Nathan reluctantly returns the report to you. Very well, I suppose I'll have to trust you. You can, I promise. Excuse me, I need to keep looking for Evan's will. It's vitally important that we find it. Speaking of which, I found this interesting document in Corvus's room. What do you think about it? Interesting? Yeah, let's see. You show Jack and Nathan the last will and testament that you obtained from Corvus's satchel. What can you tell me about this document? Jack's face goes pale. Nathan's eyes widen. Let me see it. Jack's eyes travel up and on. It's the very bottom where Nessa and Corvus have signed their names. His eyes narrow. Nathan's mouth sets like a grim line. I see. Where are those shysters? Nessa and Corvus? I last saw them upstairs in Margot's walk-in closet. I see. Excuse us a moment, Nancy. You hear Nathan and Jack's heavy footsteps as they hurry down the hallway and end up the stairs. They aren't gone very long before you hear them return to the study. They're gone. It looks like they left in a hurry. Margot's walk-in closet was in shambles. Oh boy, hold on. Can't do anything about that. All right. I wonder what they were doing. They were looking for Nessa's ruby brooch. Margot took it. I'm not surprised. You're not? No, Margot liberated some valuable silver heirlooms from the curio cabinet in the bedroom you were sharing with Kimmy. You know about that? Nathan sighs. Yes, I did. Margot was afraid Nessa would try to split up the silver wedding steins, claiming her share. Or worse, steal them both and more. So Margot took the silver heirlooms and asked me to take care of them until Nessa and Corvus left. Oh, she didn't get a chance to tell me that before she died. She didn't give me any ruby brooch, though. She must have hidden it somewhere. I remember Margot saying something about concealing the ruby brooch in her walk-in closet. Nessa was on the right track. I wonder if she found it. We need to keep looking for Evan's will. Let's hope he has one. Let's hope. Now that Margot's gone, someone else should know about this. About what? Margot entrusted the silver wedding steins to me. She wanted me to keep them at my home until Nessa and Corvus had departed. I somewhat understand about Nessa wanting her share. Couldn't one stein go to her and one to Mr. Richards? Evan loves his parents. It was their wish that the steins not be separated. Nessa knew that too, and so did Margot. Evan is a good man, but he'd cut off his own nose to spite his face, especially when it comes to his sister. Margot knew that what Evan's like, so she couldn't ask him to hide the steins. He would have given Nessa both of them to placate her, and then the steins would have been sold off to the highest bidder. It's within Nessa's rights to turn the lodge upside down looking for the steins, as this was her house too. So Margot couldn't ask Jack to hide them here, nor could she effectively hide them herself, which is why she asked me. And why are you telling me? It can't be just because I asked. No, it's because things are getting dangerous. Nessa has proven even more vindictive than I imagined. In case something happens to me, someone else should know about the steins and restore them to their rightful owner once the danger has passed. To return what was once given in good faith, Evan promised me that to me about this lodge and land. I hope to repay that gesture. I know it can be hard to tell sometimes. Evan and I are friends. Longtime friends who sometimes are at odds and sometimes keep secrets, but always friends. Please help me keep this secret from Evan until I can return the steins safely to him. I understand. I won't tell. Thank you, Nancy. You breathlessly tell Nathan and Jack about your theory about what happened in the smokehouse, ending with your belief that Mr. Richards was taken to the garnet mines. You think Mr. Richards was taken to the garnet mines? Those have been sealed for decades, which makes them a perfect place to hide someone. Uh-oh. We should drive out there and check just in case. I agree. It'll take some time to prep the automobile. To the carriage house. I'll meet you there. I'm gonna fetch Ranger Murdoch. Stay here in the lodge, Nancy, in case Mr. Richards comes back. Stay here, woman. Well, I'm certainly not going to just wait around here. I'll convince Jack and Nathan to take me with them. They need all the help they can get. Before I head out, should I check in with the other folks in the lodge? Probably. So yeah, curiouser and curiouser was this mystery. First things first, let's go find that brooch. Monica told me that Nessa's ruby brooch is hidden somewhere in here. Nessa tore this room apart looking for it. I wonder if it's still here. Yeah, but notice the hats are fine. You take the blue hat down from the shelf, mannequin head and all. The red silk robes on the blue hat is exquisite. The stitching is minute and even. You can see why Nessa didn't bother inspecting all the hats. They're up high and hard to reach, and the mannequin heads are surprisingly solid and heavy, not hollow, leaving no room for hidden items. Not in that one. It's always in the last one. You take the yellow hat down. You look close to the yellow hat, admiring the workmanship. Maybe one day you'll own a hat as fine as this. With a grunt of effort, you wrest the last mannequin head down from the shelf and examine the hat closely. Oh! Pinned to the inside of the last hat you inspect, you find Nessa's ruby brooch! Margot had cleverly concealed the pin part of the brooch between the hat and its band. You carefully unpin the ruby brooch from the hat before returning the mannequin head and hat to the top of the shelf. I'm glad I found it, but what I do with it now? Guess I better find Nessa and give it back. No! And brush some powdery soot on the ruby brooch. 2 clear fingerprints. Alright. Compare prints. One of these prints came from Margot, which comes as no surprise. She admitted to stealing Nessa's brooch. The other fingerprint belongs to Jack. I should ask him about this. While you're reluctant to potentially damage Nessa's brooch with a streak test, you reason that if it's indeed a ruby, you wouldn't be damaging it at all. Because rubies are harder than unglazed porcelain. They would scratch the streak plate, not the other way around. Now try to be as inconspicuous place at least. Perform the streak test as carefully as you can, though with this procedure, a rather firm hand is required. The ruby in Nessa's brooch easily scratches the streak plate. Phew! I guess it's a ruby after all. When a specimen is hard, yep, we already know all this. Going a little bit overboard with the details. Now let's go check on Albert, shall we? Oh, wrong room. What happened here? Albert's room is a mess. Clothing hanging haphazardly in the wardrobe, the waste paper basket stuffed full of papers, and all of his luggage is gone. The telegrapher table even beside the wastebasket. The wastebasket stuffed to capacity. I'm not surprised the telegraph tape fell out. The red cylinder is hidden underneath the bed. You methodically check all of the pockets and the garments that Albert left behind. The last jacket pocket you find, a train ticket stub. Alright. This looks like Albert's fingerprints. I'm not surprised, but it ensures he can be connected to this particular item. Examine stub. You carefully apply your careful application of You peer more closely at the train ticket stub. This stub is from Albert's journey up the Crimson. But this is for a ride in coach, the same as me and Kimmy. He said he was in the first class car. Albert lied to us. I didn't see him in our car. Was he concealing himself? Uh-oh. Oh. We find, thankfully, I've got my field kit up in the luggage rack. Do you see that old brown leather suitcase? Ah, yes, I see it. What does the field kit contain? Among other things, the field kit includes hardness picks. These are the most important tools of all my work in Crimson. They have tips of different hardness, ranging from 2 to 9 on the most scale. The hardness pick with the 9 tip is indispensable for this trip. It'll scratch just about anything, except for diamonds. I'm so glad I have these tools with me, otherwise I'd be up creek without a paddle. Indeed, good luck with your work in Crimson. Thanks, I can't wait to get started. You and Kimmy chat for a bit longer before dozing off into the afternoon. Uh-oh! Oh, it was just them. Ooh, uh-oh! He didn't want someone who was actually good at her job getting on trying to debunk his claims. It was Albert. He was in the train car after all. I remember the smell of those cigars, the ones he's been smoking in the lodge this whole time. And he got rid of my field kit to obstruct my investigation. What a crook. You see a cigar butt in the upper left drawer. Take butt. Examine butt. The coat of arms and the label of the cigar indicates that it is a Belgian make. The head of the cigar appears to have been oily smudges. Now that you've taken a closer look at the cigar butt, you can catch a whiff of its aroma. I smelled this type of the cigar before, and not just in the lodge, where we already know that. There are always smudges of it. After it turns up, there are... Oh, looks like the fingerprints got smeared as the butt was being twisted to put it out inside the drawer. I'm glad I tried, though. Spines of the books aren't broken. The covers show no sign of their wear. These books are in pristine condition. I guess Albert takes... Nope, I don't believe so. He doesn't even read them. So you take the papers crumbled out in the wastebasket. You pick up the strip of telegraph tape. Powdering the crumbled papers reveals some handwriting indentations. After darkening the indentations, you can read most of the writing on the crumbled papers. It's clear that Albert wrote on papers that were on top of the ones on these ones, not thinking anyone would be able to detect these faint marks. The first page is a mineralogical report written by Albert, declaring that, in his opinion, the area around Crimson is rich with diamond. I saw Albert handling... Yeah, we already know about this. The second page is the other report that he gave to Nathan. And the team does... Yep. I don't like the looks of this at all. I hid... Yep, we know... Sometimes she summarizes things all over. Which version of the report is true? We already know that one. Neither are true. The telegraph tape reads as follows. Carl L. and proceed to Solix with package. Deliver package by 3 a.m. Await further instructions. Well done in Crimson. Well done in Crimson? What could that mean? And who on earth is Carl L.? Good question. Looks like there's something under there. A cylinder wrapped in red paper. I wonder what this could be. Take cylinder. Reach down and retrieve the red cylinder from Albert's bed. Uh-oh! I think this is a stick of dynamite! Yep, it's a stick of dynamite. Looking at it makes you sweat. Dynamite is not a standard piece of mineralogical equipment. It's dynamite. Examining more closely wouldn't make you feel any better. The papery casing of the dynamite is some very faint oily marks, but the surface is too absorbent for clear fingerprints. It was worth a try. Albert stored some of the things in the blue trunk in the upstairs closet. I wonder if anything was left behind. Oh, wrong room. Oh! The blue trunk's lid is open, the padlock hanging open. I wonder what was stored in here. You peer into the blue trunk. There are some old, threadbare linens lining the interior and obscuring the trunk's bottom. But by methodically feeling around inside, you discover a bullet and a blasting cap. My father was in construction. I know a blasting cap when I see one, but why would Albert put these in here? Jack let Albert store his things in this trunk. He wanted to lock this all away. The same as how he demanded he to stay in Jack's room. The only bedroom was a lock. Seems like Albert was concerned about keeping his secrets. And he's armed. Uh-oh. He was carrying dynamite with him too. It was wise of him to store the dynamite and blasting cap separately. He seems to know more about demolition and mineralogy. Take bullet. Take cap. Take lock. I don't have the key after all. Either this isn't it. It was a good shot though. Hey, again, happy early birthday to you, Tavia. Nope. Okay, let's look through my inventory a bit more. I bet this thing would secure just about anything. Aha, as I suspected, the fingerprints belong to Albert. Okay. All right, now let's move on, shall we? I think I'm getting the picture here. Albert isn't who he says he is. I believe he's headed to sew locks to sabotage them with explosives. I found a bullet and blasting caps in the blue trunk. Albert is probably armed and is fairly well acquainted with how to use explosives, seeing as how he knew to store his dynamite and blasting caps separately. This doesn't bode well. And I think he tossed my luggage out of the train to eliminate my field kit, so I could interfere with his sham field work. He was in the trade car with me and Kimmy. His train ticket stuff proves that, and I do remember the smell of his particular brand of cigars. I need to head to the carriage house and tell Jack Mason and Ranger Murdoch. So, yep, let's get over there. Time for the confrontation. Oh, I got the tape, though. Oh, what's this? The double door has been thrown wide open. You can see Ranger Murdoch and Jack inside the carriage house. They look nonplussed. Jack, what's going on? The automobile's gone, Nancy. I can see that. Someone must have picked the lock on the driver's side door and made off with it. I think Albert's on the automobile. You hear a rumbling. Is that Thunder? Nope, that's Nathan. He went and got his automobile. Tell me what you know on the way. Time's a-wasting. Let's go. Right. It's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze and a bumpy ride. It's actually Evan's father's old car. I'll probably be seeing you at some point. I've managed to keep it running decently. Well, the shocks are pretty stiff. indecently well. It'll be fine, Nancy. Just hang on tight. You all buy into Nathan's automobile and head for the mine. Mr. Cardinal, I'm sorry we couldn't meet under better circumstances. I understand you're reluctant to be involved with the authorities. It's entirely justified. Evan's in danger. I will help my friend. We can figure out the rest later. I will safeguard you from any consequences of going off reservation. I promise. Let's deal with that later. I think Albert's stolen the automobile. You do? What makes you think so, Nancy? Albert's luggage is gone, and his room is a mess. It looks like he left in a hurry. Albert's had so much luggage, and Jack said it was very heavy. It sure was. There's no way he could have handled all that luggage himself unless he took the automobile. I think he's driving the Solux to bomb it. I stumbled upon a confrontation between Albert and Kimmy. He was furious with her. It was such a bewildering encounter. Kimmy had a map the Solux circled. I think that it had something to do with Albert leaving so suddenly. He must have thought she was onto a sabotage plan, but Kimmy told me she was interested in seeing the Solux as a tourist. He's not a Belgian mineralogist at all. He's a German spy! And his name might actually be Carl L. Carl L? Where'd you hear that name? I found his telegraph tape and stick of dynamite in Carl's room. And I found a bullet and a plastic cap in the blue trunk where he was storing some of his things. I think Carl is highly knowledgeable about explosives, armed, and dangerous. Fantastic detective work, Nancy. I need to notify the appropriate authorities and follow up on this imminent threat. Oh, also, I think Albert's got a gun. He's been storing bullets in the blue trunk, and he's knowledgeable. Okay, we already saw all this. I think you're dealing with a professional saboteur. That's one that's armed and dangerous. Got it. I'll keep all that in mind when we confront him, Nancy. Thank you. Please be careful. I will, and I'll tell you how it goes when we meet again. Mr. Cardinal, could you please drop me off at the train station? I can send an urgent telegram for reinforcements. We'll have rangers at Solux as soon as possible. Of course, but first to the Garnet mines. They're closer. Good idea. Telegrams travel faster than any automobile. Albert will take some hours to arrive at his destination. Nathan stopped his automobile as close to the Garnet mine as he dares. The ground is rugged, and any roads leading to and from the area have fallen into disrepair many years ago. A bit of stealth is imperative as well. It wouldn't do for Nessa and Corvu to be alerted to your presence. The consequences for Evan could be dire. You and Jack watch Nathan turn the automobile around to head for the distant train station. It's all up to you now. Excellent job. Kudos on your thorough investigative technique. The mine entrance has been blasted shut. This can't be where Nessa and Corvus took Evan. Oh no, my theory's wrong. Nancy, wait a minute. This is the closest entrance to the mine. They were on foot. Not to mention, this is fresh rubble. Most likely they did use the entrance, but the entrance collapsed after them. Abandoned mines are dangerous places to enter. We have to be careful. Chapter 6, Confrontations. How are we going to get in? Don't know, but I'm going to grab the shovel and start digging. Let's ask him about the brooch, shall we? I gotta help Jack with this. Look, Jack, I found Nessa's ruby brooch. Well, how do you like that? You're pretty good at finding things, Nancy. Want to know what else I found, Jack? Your fingerprints on Nessa's ruby brooch. Can you think of any reason why I'd find that? Okay. I helped Margot hide the brooch. It was the least I could do, seeing as Nessa probably killed her. Nessa probably murdered Margot, right? Or at least poisoned her? That's what you figure, right? Yes, that's what I think. Margot was telling me that Nessa had headed out for her. She didn't tell me why she thought so, but it was easy to see, wasn't it? Nessa thought Margot could get the launch and land instead of her. So yeah, when Margot came to me to help her hide the brooch, I did just that. I couldn't hide it in my room, because Albert's using it. Couldn't hide it in the room I'm sharing with Corvus. Too risky. So I hid the brooch in Margot's giant closet. Reached up high into her hats and pinned it inside one of them. Margot couldn't have reached up there. She was even shorter than you. We were going to sell it and use the money to help with the lodge's upkeep. So Nessa could at least indirectly help fund that, something she should have been doing anyway. But now, Margot's dead, Evan's missing, and Nessa and Corvus right in the middle of it all. Things are coming apart. I don't see much point in anything anymore. You keep it. You found it fair and square. Pay your way through school or something. Make something good come of all this. Okay, Jack. I'll hold on to it for now. Reason that since the ruby can will already need to be polished because of the scratches that you accidentally caused, you decided to perform a scratch test with the salt sample. Oh, the stones from the salt sample that didn't dissolve in the water have scratched the ruby. Rubies have a mole hardness of 9. That could mean these could be diamonds! Oh, you've revealed 2 clear fingerprints on it. We got it. You lightly rub the ruby sample on the ruby yourself to the jeweler to polish anyway. Ah, some of the colored specimen of samples came from the riverbed have scratched the ruby cabochon. It's quite possible that these are diamonds. Diamonds in crimson? So there are diamonds in crimson! Jack, 2 samples I obtained around the lodge could be diamonds. They scratched Nessa's ruby brooch. Only diamonds would do that. I dug 1 sample out of the riverbank. The other was oddly in the bag of rock salt in the smokehouse. Nancy, this isn't the time to talk about that. We've got to find Mr. Richards. Maybe we can talk about this later, okay? Take wire. I wondered if I could figure out a faster way to clear this rubble. The developers of this game assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the process depicted, particularly dangerous ones involving explosives. Do not attempt anything in this game in real life. Ha! I wonder if I could. Okay. I now have a plunger, detonator, wire, blasting cap, and a stick of dynamite. I wonder if I could rig this up to blast the mine entrance open. Okay, a rubble sample you obtained from outside the mine. Wow, I can see why Crimson was such a booming mining town. These rocks are full of garnets. In this instance, the garnets are in gem quality and are incorporated into the sample, but maybe inside the mine will be a different story. The rubble sample you obtain outside the mine contains tiny white crystals and large red patches of mineral incorporated into the rock. The surrounding rock is biotite schist, a type of mica schist. Schist is a type of metamorphic rock. I'm not surprised that there are garnet mines here. This type of schist is known to contain garnet. This will be a nice detail for my mineralogical report. You rub the sample of the white crystals and red minerals. None are suitable for rubbing on the plate. It was a good thought though. Maybe I'll find something more suitable inside the mine. The rock sample inside the mine does have some interest, but not enough. I need to obtain a sample with a much larger crystal to properly scratch test. I should try getting a sample inside the mine if I can. It's a bit awful of me to plan the scratching Nessa's ruby brooch intentionally, but it's already been accidentally scratched. I'll need to get it professionally polished either way. You carefully insert the blasting cap into the dynamite. All right. You stick the end of the wire into the blasting cap, which has been inserted in the dynamite. Well done. Would you happen to have any wire cutters, Jack? I do, actually. Perfect. May I borrow those? Sure thing. Here you go, Nancy. Wire cutters. Well done. Thanks. Cut wire. You insert the wire into the plunger down here. The explosive rig. It's time to set it off. Okay, let's see another funny death, shall we? Push plunger. Here goes. Whoops! I blew us both up! Maybe step back a wee bit. Whoops! Jack, I'm ready to set the explosive charge. Got it, Nancy. Give me a second. I took Jack with me. Ready. You carefully place the rig dynamite close to the rubble. Okay, we're all set. That was funny. Wah! I've taken the plunger and placed it out of harm's way. Fortunately, the wire is long enough. Push plunger. Here goes nothing. That was a bit anticlimactic. Well, it was only one stick of dynamite after all. Yeah, one stick can only do so much. Enter mine. All right, I can fit through this opening. Nancy, this is really dangerous. Let's widen the hole some more so I can go too. Evan is in danger. There's no time to lose. You keep working on the rubble and follow me when you can. Okay, Nancy, you're the boss. You be careful, you hear? I will. I promise. Wait, before you go, it's gonna be dark as night in there. Darker even. Take this lantern. Jack lights the lantern and hands it to you. I've got another one, don't you worry. You're not the only one with big pockets. Good luck, kiddo. Thanks, Jack. You squeeze through the small hole in the rubble and enter the mine. Oh, wow! Seeing the lantern's light reflected brilliantly on the sound of the red crystals embedded in the walls, you suddenly are reminded of why you traveled to Crimson in the first place. If the situation wasn't so dire, you'd be dazzled by the caves of natural wonders. Instead, the red gleams look like blood is heading on every surface, just waiting to fall. You shiver. Toronto feels like it's 1,000,000 kilometers and 1,000,000 years away. Oh dear, it's so dark in here. I need to figure out which way Nessa and Corvus have taken Mr. Richards, if indeed they came this way at all. The floor of the garnet mine is covered in dust and rock particles. That, plus the lack of wind and weather, has kept dozens of shoe prints looking as fresh as the day they were made. The shoe prints still look very clear, but are covered in dust, like everything else. Most of the shoe prints. You take a handful of discarded rock. Some of these are white and some are red. You take some of the coarse ground garnets out of the bucket and into your pocket. You chip a particularly lovely crystal sample out of the rock. A handful of discarded red rocks and colors rock that you found on the floor. Some coarsely grounded rock that have been thoroughly to the jaw crusher. These are more likely garnets. The red crystal sample you took from the mine's interior is truly spectacular. These are some amazing red and colorless crystal formations. Stunning! Some of the red and colorless discarded rocks show chips and fractures. Others don't. There is something about the way these look. Are they actually garnets? There are some varieties of and variations, shapes, and sizes of the coarsely ground garnets. Without mylope, these look like large rust-colored and gravel. But with mylope, these look like small, beautiful gems. While the mine interior sample is pickpocketed with many lovely crystals, the most prominent one is large and red. A healthy-sized garnet, most likely. I think it's even gem quality. It's a real pity that this mine produce industrial abrasive only. It's too pretty to pulverize. The rocks on plate. The variety of rocks in the sample. The first red rock you streak leaves a white mark on the plate, indicative of a garnet. Firmly taking note of the discarded garnets in your hands, you attempt to create a streak in your makeshift streak plate. It's not making a streak at all. This is definitely not a garnet. Although the coarsely grounded garnets are quite small, you're able to take some of the larger pieces between your thumb and forefinger and streak them on your plate. The streaks are white, which is to be expected. All garnets, regardless of color, produce white streaks. You carefully rub the colorless specimens embedded in the boulder in the boulder sample on the streak plate, one by one. Some of these specimens streak white, which is to be expected of garnet, but some of these specimens aren't streaking the plate at all. Oops! While performing your streak test and holding the lantern at the same time, you fumble and your hand slips. You draw the same sample forcefully across your porcelain plate, right on the most prominent red crystal specimen. The large red crystal was actually making it awkward for you to streak the test the colorless specimen. Nothing. No streak? Could these be rubies? But they don't look quite right. These might not be garnets. You take the wild raspberry sides and color discarded, definitely not a garnet, and attempt to scratch Nessa's ruby brooch with it. The red, definitely not a garnet, easily scratches the ruby and Cobacon. Well, how about that? These certainly must have jammed up the machine here and were tossed out of the ground without a second thought. No one would think that these shiny red rocks are diamonds because diamonds aren't red. Then again, maybe they can be. You try to scratch Nessa's ruby brooch with the coarsely ground garnet. Well, that's a relief. These coarsely ground garnets aren't marking the ruby at all. They're very likely to be actual garnets. This makes sense, seeing as these garnets are successfully grounded by the jaw crusher. You carefully rub all the specimens present in the crystal sample on Nessa's ruby brooch, especially the large red crystal. I suppose this could be a ruby, and rubies wouldn't scratch another Hey! You completely forgot to be careful with Nessa's ruby brooch. There's now a large, deep scratch along the lighter, more superficial marks. Oh! This was much too easy to do, but this crystal is red. It's not a garnet or a ruby. Oh gee, look at the size of it. Red diamonds, unheard of. Until now. Of course, I'll need to take these back to the museum for more testing to be sure, but this is looking very promising. Interesting, red diamonds. Aha, here's some pointy-toe, size 14 men's dress shoe prints. An impression made by 8 women's shoes. And size 12 men boots. I recognize this tread pattern from Mr. Richards' other boots. The 3 set of shoe prints are the freshest after all. Now I need to track these shoe prints and discover where they went next. The fresh shoe prints head east, deeper into the mines. Nothing but dusty miner shoe prints from and down the South Pass. Gee, I'm glad I was able to track Nessa and Corvus down this path. I hope I can find Mr. Richards before it's too late. Uh-oh! Ah! What was that? Despite the terrifying rumble and shudder surrounding you, you forge onwards. Game is auto-saved. Just as you reach this fire-lit cavern, your lantern goes out. Oh no, the lantern's out of oil. There's no turning back now. Sign your will, Evan. Sign my fake will, you mean? If you're so smart, why didn't you just forge Pa's will? Then you wouldn't have had to come up to this dumb scheme. If you were so smart, you know that Pa's lawyer's still alive, and he'd pipe up pretty quick if an actual will from his client came out of nowhere. But this is a perfectly suitable backup plan, and it's much easier to forge your will. If you do as you're told, I'll let you die quickly. Otherwise, you'll starve to death in the dark, and we'll forge your signature anyway. Nancy's on to you. You won't get away with this. We'll see about that. It'll be her word against ours. I have to rescue Mr. Richards. My first order of business is to distract Corvus. This is a pretty good place to conceal myself should Corvus happen to turn his head. You pick up a plain rock from the floor. Yep. This piece isn't particularly valuable as a sample, but every rock tells a story. Red crystals, even tinier and colorless crystals incorporated into the plain rock. Rocks like these are fairly common in this area. Not exciting, but still instructive. It's a good thought, though. This particular sample isn't quite as good as the others I've gathered. Sometimes it's hard for me to throw away rock samples. I need to get better about that. Now that's a relief. These coarsely grounded garnets aren't marking the ruby at all. They're actual garnets. That makes sense, seeing as these garnets were successfully ground by... Wait, what? You throw it down. What was that? And what was that? Someone coming from the middle passage. I thought I heard something too. I'll take a look. Uh-oh! Ah! Corvus, what have you done, you oaf? Either Corvus is inaudible behind the pile of rubble, or unable to reply. Eek! I didn't expect that to happen. I just wanted to create a distraction. Corvus! Let's see if I can free Mr. Richard while Nessa's preoccupied. 2 against 1 sounds like better odds. Maybe we could turn the tables on her until Jack arrives with help. You better be digging as hard as I am, Corvus. You always mess things up. Nessa continues to paw ineffectively through the rubble while chastising Corvus. You take the crushed Jordan almonds from the table and throw them over the edge into the darkness. I won't let these endanger Mr. Richards' life. Nancy! What are you doing here? You don't just know what and when to quit, do you? When I get over there, you'll wish you never meddled. Stop! Come any closer and I'll throw this lantern over the edge. You need the light just as much as we do. No one can leave this cabin without it. Jack will be along shortly. It's over, Nessa. You can try getting away, but my dear little brother certainly can't. Don't come any closer. Stay where you are. You're trying to tell me what to do? How dare you? Why did you ever set foot in Crimson? Why? If it hadn't been for you. Nessa's so overwrought she can barely speak. Nessa stomps her foot angrily. You're ruining everything! Oh, geez. All of my planning, all of that I've done, undone by you, you meddlesome slip of a girl. Nessa, be careful. Don't tell me what to do. How dare you? Nessa pulls a knife out of her skirt pocket. You'll never leave here alive. Watch out. I said, don't tell me what to do. Oh, no, no. Uh-oh! The whole mine gives a great shudder and part of the floor gives way. Nancy! Nessa clings desperately to the edge of the now yawning chasm, which has already swallowed her knife. Ah! Nessa! You wretched girl, always ruining everything! Nessa! Do you hear me? Do you think your one dumb luck is all that it is? Oh, Nessa, do be quiet for once. Nessa gasped for breath, recovering from her near-death experience. You're stronger than you look. Thanks. I wonder if I could safely secure Nessa. I need to do something before I start standing up, or she might run off. Let's lock her up with the padlock, shall we? You hook Nessa's belt loop with the open padlock and close the padlock firmly around the front brace of the wheelbarrow. What do you think you're doing? Nessa struggles to get up, but the wheelbarrow is too heavy and resists her attempt. Nessa screeches in frustration. Ah! Well, well, now that that's over with, come help me with these ropes, Nancy. Right. Managed to untie Mr. Richards, now that you have all the time in the world. Thanks, Nancy. I guess we should try to find our way out of here, eh? Yes, I think I know the way. Hey, sis, looks like you could use some cooling off. We'll come back for you. Maybe. Wait, did you hear that? You could definitely hear footsteps approaching. We're in here! Help! Nancy, is that you? Is that you? Mr. Richards? Ranger Murdoch! Nancy! Nathan's eyes widen slightly as his gaze settles on Nessa, sulking by the wheelbarrow. I padlocked Nessa to that wheelbarrow! Oh, I suppose we should deal with that. Ranger Murdoch kneels down and cuffs Nessa's hands together. He then cuts Nessa's belt loop with a pocket knife. Oh, Corbett is trapped behind that rubble in the middle passageway. We should probably get him out. Working together, you eventually clear the rubble and free Corvus. He's a bit worse for wear, but has only minor injuries. Ranger Murdoch cuffs Corvus, just in case. Let's get out of here. Good idea. Ranger Murdoch leads the way out of the mine. You feel incredibly relieved to be out of the mine. It feels like a great weight has been lifted off your shoulders. The automobile is parked down the hill, and there's more rangers waiting for us at the train station. How did everyone get here so quickly? Well, it wasn't quick actually. I'm not actually a forest ranger. I'm a member of Northwest Mounted Police. We've been on the trail of a German spy and saboteur who is rumored to be in this area. We believe he is responsible for the bombing of the bridge west of Crimson. Carl L., a man known to us as Carl Lefter. You revealed him, Nancy. Well done. Not only that, you tipped us off to what his next target would be. The Sulaks? Right again. As you know, Canada declared war on Germany a few weeks ago. It appears operatives directed by the German Foreign Office have undertaken a campaign here in Canada to delay military aid to Europe by targeting transportational links such as railways, bridges, and canals. We strongly suspect that Carl L., a man we know as Carl Leffer, is one of those operatives. He's been apprehended at the Sulaks while setting up explosive charges, and thanks to your impeccable detective work, Mr. Lefter will surely be brought to justice. Gee, What's going to happen to Nessa? I think I gathered enough evidence to prove that Nessa poisoned Margot. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Not me, that's for certain. Let's go. Woo! Look at all these Mounties. Conclusion, Chapter 7, Conclusions. The train station is a flurry of activity. Rangers are milling around, consulting with each other in whispered conversation. Inside you hear the non-stop whir and ticking of the telegraph machine. The ranger in charge looks up and acknowledges Ranger Murdoch with a nod. Just the man I wanted to see. Thanks to the intelligence you provided, we were able to alert the authorities in Sault Ste. Marie about the impending sabotage dump on the Sioux Locks. They were ready and waiting and caught the man red-handed with luggage full of dynamite and blasting caps, not to mention a 9mm Luger in the glove box. Imagine his surprise when they called him by his real name, Karl Leffler, aka Albert Respa, German spy and saboteur. I would have loved to have seen the look on his face. All in all, some mighty fine work, Ranger Murdoch. A crisis has been averted. As much as I'd like to take credit for it, Nancy Mabel here is the one you ought to be thanking. She single-handedly figured it all out. All I did was pass along the information. Well then, my thanks to you, Nancy Mabel. You're a Canadian hero. Thanks. And so I'll warn you now, you might have to be an unsung hero at that. I have a feeling the Canadian government won't want to reveal just how vulnerable we were tonight. It could undermine the public's confidence at a crucial turning point for our country. Oh, I don't mind at all, as long as things worked out for the best. They did, Nancy. Truly. Thank you for your services. Now, what have you got here? We just came from the old abandoned garnet mine. And this is Mrs. Nessa Crab. She kidnapped her own brother. She could have done worse and got away with it, except Miss Maple here was able to detain her by padlocking her to a wheelbarrow. A rather resourceful and ingenious move, if I may say so. Ah, thanks. I'd go through it all again just to see the look on your face now. Miss Krabs is also suspected of the murder of a young woman, and Mr. Corvus Shaw is her suspected accomplice. They have a lot to answer for. A busy night. Yes, indeed. Please dispatch some crime scene investigators to the lodge so we can build a strong case. Roger that. I'm heading back down to Toronto now. I need to meet with some higher-ups immediately. The Northwest Mounted Police has commandeered a train back to the city. I've been told you call Toronto home, Miss Maple. Will you join me? I'm exhausted. I don't think I'm up for more traveling tonight, and I'm not ready to leave Crimson just yet. Suit yourself. I'll need to take your statement for the report, but that can wait a day or two. Thank you. I'll need a bit of time to get my thoughts in order. Of course. There's going to be a ton of paperwork to do for this whole caper. I'll be trapped behind a desk for weeks. Do send word when you'll be returning. I'll pick you up from Union Station and escort you straight to the police station. Will do. Thanks, Ranger Murdoch. Nathan drives you, Jack, and Evan back to the lodge. Margot's death feels like it happened weeks ago, and your arrival on Crimson feels like months ago. It feels like years when you spoke to your boss, Professor Plummer. Ah, my boss, my fieldwork. What am I going to tell him? Despite the excitement of the evening, you find yourself nodding off, only to be jolted awake when Nathan's automobile hits an uneven stretch of road. Eventually, not even the bumpy road can rouse you. Nancy, you awake? We're back. Once Jack has roused you from your deep slumber, you make your way upstairs as quietly as possible, lest you wake Kimmy. My goodness, what a night! I've never been so exhausted. You climb into bed and are eager to fall asleep. She's just sleeping in her clothes? But as your gaze falls onto the ransacked turret cabinet, you realize there are a few things you may want to bring up with the other inhabitants of the lodge tomorrow morning. I'd better make myself some notes on fresh paper to remind myself. Or I could just decide to go to sleep if I wish. Did Margot have an accomplice with the ruby brooch? Yes. Yes, I suspected someone helped Margot hide the ruby brooch effectively. Who was it? Jack? I'm certain of that. Jack admitted to helping Margot hide the brooch. His fingerprints were on it clear as day. I found the brooch in Margot's walk-in closet, pinned under a hat, after Nessa and Corbett had already thoroughly searched there, including the hats. Margot was already dead by then. Jack hid the brooch there after Nessa and Corbett were finished searching that room. He admitted as much to me when I confronted him about finding his fingerprints on the brooch. Now what about the Curl cabinet? Who stole from it? Margot. Margot's fingerprints was the only one lifted from the smashed Curl cabinet. Plus, she admitted to taking the antique silver wedding steins. That's all pretty clear cut. But she mentioned having help. Who helped her with the steins? Nathan? Nathan admitted to helping Margot hide the antique silver wedding steins, but he's doing it for the right reasons. I promised I wouldn't tell, and I won't. Who is the imposter? Albert. Right. His geology and mineralogy books look brand new because he never once consulted them. They were part of his disguise. That explains why he was examining the glacial erratic. He had no idea that it wouldn't be a good indicator of the geology of the area. The report Albert wrote for Nessa demonstrated no knowledge of proper field report procedures, nor appropriate use of mineralogical terminology. He was definitely not a mineralogical expert. I wonder if he was even Belgian. What was Kimmy's true goal? Birding. After everything I've witnessed, I'm pretty certain that Kimmy is just a keen bird watcher who probably had the worst vacation of her life. Everything and anything can look suspicious if you're looking for suspicious activity. Were Evan and Nathan friends? Friends. Their conversation in the conservatory indicates that they were similarly aligned when it comes to the fate of the lodge and land. They also met up in the study after that first dinner. It was hard to tell if they were friendly then, but I did see them shake hands. They respect each other. Margot entrusted the antique silver wedding steins to Nathan. She trusted him, and Nathan is risking Nessa coming after him for those valuable antiques. Nathan was out late at night with Jack, and they were both helping Mr. Richards. I heard them talking about it. I recovered a sample of clear crystals from the salt at the lodge that didn't dissolve in water. I'm pretty sure that that's what Nathan and Jack were trying to hide. Judging from the conversation I overheard in the carriage house, Nathan, Jack, and Mr. Richards were working together to deal with Albert. Nathan and Albert had a clandestine meeting in the boathouse. Nathan had paid Albert for a mineralogical report that concluded the lodge and lands didn't contain diamonds. Nathan wasn't concerned about the truth. He just wanted to protect Crimson from being a mining town again. And Nathan helped him, and me and Jack rescued Mr. Richards tonight. He risked losing his Indian status by revealing himself to Ranger Murdoch after having snuck off the reservation. He's a true friend. Mr. Richards is lucky to have him. What were Jack and Nathan trying to conceal? Diamonds. It is possible after all, but so far that's only a hunch based on the samples I've gathered. I'll need to verify my hypothesis when I get back to the museum. I did see Nathan and Jack gathering something shiny from the riverbank, and I recovered this odd salt sample that didn't dissolve in water. These could be diamonds. The irony is, Nathan and Jack were trying to conceal just the colorless stones, not the red ones. No one figured that some of the red garnets could actually be diamonds because no one knew crimson diamonds could exist. The red diamonds are far more spectacular a discovery, and they were there the whole time under everyone's noses. Where did Jack conceal the smokehouse? I did recover these clear crystals from the bag of rock salt. If these really are diamonds, the bag of rock salt in the smokehouse would have been the perfect hiding place. Who would guess? Were Margot and Jack in an affair? No. I'm quite sure Margot and Jack were just friends. He explained the meaning of their secretive Bordeaux meeting. He was helping her inject her medicine. Jack was a good friend to Margot and nothing more. He told me so, and I believe him. What's more, the evidence I find backs him up. I found his fingerprints in Margot's medicine kit. What items suggest Nessa came to the lodge intending to threaten or harm him? And Evan, almonds. Mr. Richards was allergic to almonds, and Nessa knew that. She brought those Jordan almonds with her and filled that cut crystal bowl in the parlor, overt as you please. Nessa wasn't just being a rude guest, she was a bully. But at least she didn't get away with it. You wake up the next morning feeling refreshed and ravenous. As you make your way down the stairs hallway, you begin to smell the inviting aromas of coffee and bacon. You enter the kitchen and find the other inhabitants gathered around the table, digging into a hearty breakfast. You join in. Morning light is streaming through the small window, causing motes of dust to sparkle and dance in the light. Mr. Richard is slumped in front of his plate, eyes downcast. Jack, you've already admitted to helping Margot hide Nessa's ruby brooch. Sure did. You said before that you and Margot planned to sell the brooch to help pay for the lodge's upkeep. Yeah, she was trying to lay claim to the whole place, but she never lifted a finger to take care of it, nor sent a dime. You always said because of the state of things, you didn't see the point of executing that plan. But I think you should. What do you think, Mr. Richards? Sounds good to me. That would be a nice thing for Nessa to indirectly do. She certainly wouldn't intentionally do anything good for anyone else. You hand the ruby brooch over to Jack. Thanks, Nancy. Maybe I can get a new mop. You mentioned that Nessa had it out for Margot, and this was Margot's way of getting back at her. Yeah, but I figured it was because Nessa was afraid Mr. Richard would bequeath the lodge and land to Margot instead. Oh, she sure was. Nessa was dead set on making Margot go away, so the lodge and land would end up with her. Which they never were, of course. I promised all that to Nathan and his family, always and forever. Margot understood. I will admit to worrying about the fate of the lodge and lands from time to time, but once I learned how much Margot loved it here too, just as it is, I worried less. But when the fisherman found that diamond, yeah, that was trouble. Nessa arrived and she recognized Margot's face from some old wanted posters. In a past life, Margot lived and worked up in Skagway during the Klondike Gold Rush. She was just a kid. She made some mistakes, trusted the wrong people, but she told me all that, so it didn't work. When Nessa tried to blackmail her into leaving Crimson, Nessa found another way to get the better of her. Evan's face falls and he clamps his mouth shut. Her secrets, you mean like her in the boudoir on the first night you arrived? Yes, I know you've already discussed that. You said the two of you were just friends, and I believe you. Yeah, Jack helped Margot with her Salvarsan treatment. You knew about that? Sure did. Jack helped her with that every night. I couldn't. Too squeamish. The injections were very painful for her. I couldn't stand to do them. Well, that makes me feel better about that. And Margot knew Nessa and Corvus would rummage through her things. Her vanity had a lock, but she suspected that it wasn't secure. In fact, she suspected it had been tampered with already. I kept the brooch in my pocket for a bit, but when we were fixing to head to the garnet mine, I didn't want to bring it with me. So I nipped upstairs to her giant closet and pinned it to the underside of one of her hats, up on one of the mannequin heads. I figured should Nessa and Corvus return to the lodge, the last place they look is somewhere they already searched. Kimmy, I'm sorry that your birding trip was so full of so much drama and tension, but I'm very glad I got to meet you. Thanks so much, Nancy. That's very kind of you. Yes, this was one of the strangest trips I've ever taken. So much unpleasantness and tragedy. But I don't regret coming here. Crimson's a beautiful place. Margot was very kind. Jack and Nathan really helped me feel at home here, despite everything. And you, Mr. Richards. Yeah? I can see why you love Crimson so much. I love it too. Aw, that's really nice. Thanks, Kimmy. And Nancy, I'm very glad I got to meet you too. You're one of a kind, brave and clever. No matter what happens, I'm sure you'll make your dreams come true. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I'll try my best. Nathan, I have to know. Yes? About the set of silver wedding steins. I brought them back this morning, now that they're out of Nessa's reach. I really appreciate Nathan keeping them safe for me. Don't worry, he told me all about what Margot did. And they're right about me. I would have just given them to Nessa to make her stop harassing me. Story of my life. Never again. I was in the boathouse when you had your meeting with Albert. You were? Where? In one of the canoes, but never mind that. I saw and heard you pay a phony mineralogical report from Albert. I feel like you had Mr. Retcher's best interest in mind, but could you please explain that to me? Of course. I did that because I had Mr. Richard's best interest in mind and mine as well. What's this all about? I didn't want to trouble you, Evan. Yes, I did pay Albert to write a mineralogical report that stated there were no diamonds on the lands around the lodge. That would make the land worthless to Nessa, and she would stop bothering Evan and go home. Albert seemed to be not who he said he was. I met mineralogists. He was no mineralogist. I had a funny feeling about him too. He was perfectly willing to prepare the document to say what I wanted. For a price. I still have it with Albert's signature and official seal. With Evan's permission, I plan on mailing it to the federal government. We can be free of these troubles once and for all. Yeah, let's do it. You weren't the only ones who paid Albert to prepare a false mineralogical report, Nathan. What? After Albert fled the lodge, I found a couple of crumbled papers in his waste paper basket. The papers had writing indentations on them. Wait, we already know all this. Yeah, we talked about this with him already. You wouldn't happen to have that version. Yeah, you already seen it. Good one, Nancy. Albert was clearly a fraud, looking to make some money by producing false reports that can never be considered official. I'm due to meet with Ranger Murdoch down in Toronto and be interviewed about everything that's happened. I'll be submitting this report as part of the evidence against Albert. I'll be writing my own field report about Crimson. Considering the circumstances and my methodical work, I think the government would be keen to accept my findings. I have to know, are there diamonds here in Crimson? Mr. Richard, Nathan, and Jack exchanged meaningful looks. As I told Jack, I made some discoveries that would strongly indicate the presence of diamonds in Crimson. Surely you all must know something. I think you and Jack were picking all of the old diamonds out of the riverbank when I saw the two of you earlier today. I think Jack hides the little diamonds in the bag of rock salt in the smokehouse. I grabbed a handful of salt and dissolved it in the water. Some of the crystals didn't dissolve. I found some discarded garnets in the mine last night. They scratched Nessa's ruby brooch. Only diamonds could do that. Nancy, there are diamonds in Crimson. We have to check the riverbanks regularly for the ones that come down the river. Over time, we've managed to extract most of the gems that are on the ground, but soil erosion also reveals them. Every so often, we gotta go look for more than they've appeared. They're easier to see by moonlight. Evan used to help us. In fact, he used to do it all by himself. Yeah, but it wore my back down, so it's now up to Jack and Nate. Fortunately for us, not many people were around. It was a difficult secret to keep, even then. Until that fish swallowed that whopper of a diamond and that lucky duck fisherman caught it. Nothing but trouble that was. My goodness, I see. There's one thing I want to know. Red diamonds aren't known to exist anywhere in the world. I think there are red diamonds here in Crimson. Am I right? Silence. Yes, Nancy, we know. Back in the day, those were just assumed to be garnets. Not one really sought to look closer. Because as you say, everyone knows that red diamonds don't exist. Wow, I'm speechless. Do you know what this means? It could be one of the most significant mineralogical finds of all time. It would put Crimson on the map. Yeah, that's what we're afraid of. Oh, yes, I see. Nancy, we know that your fieldwork is very important to you, and we certainly can't prevent you from divulging anything you might have discovered here. We can only ask you to think about what the news could mean for Crimson. We like it how it is now. I do too. Me too. And so did Margot. And what'll happen now? That'll partially depend on you, Nancy. You pile into Nathan's automobile, except for Mr. Richards, as there isn't enough room in the four-seater. You sense he'd like some time alone anyway. He gives you and Kimmy a nod and then turns away. As the automobile trottles away from the lodge, you crane your neck and take one last look. I'm really gonna miss this place, in spite of everything. You turn and face forward. The rattling up the rough road makes it hard to think. The only coherent thought you manage to have is, what will you tell your boss, and what could that mean for your future? Thank goodness the bridge has been repaired enough to allow trains to cross it again. And repaired? Enough? You are traveling light, Nancy. I wouldn't be too concerned. Traveling light thanks to Albert. Okay, Nancy, the train's gonna leave soon. Be well. Oh, but what about you, Kimmy? I've talked it over with Jack and Nathan. I think I'll stay here for a bit. It's been so tense here. I wanted to relax, enjoy the birds, and the fall migration is starting in a few weeks, and the leaves will be changing color. I promised Jack that I'll help with the lodge chores. I'll earn my keep. That's wonderful news. I wish I could stay longer too, but I've got to get back to my job in the city. Good luck, Nancy. I'm gonna miss you. I'll miss you too, Kimmy. Be well. I'll miss all of you. Thanks for letting me stay with you, and please thank Mr. Richards too. We'll let him know you're made of pretty tough stuff, Nancy. Jack's been telling me how brave you were down in the mine. We're grateful for all you've done down here. Goodbye, Nancy. Yeah, bye, Nancy. Now go on. The train's not gonna wait forever. Right. Bye. You stare at the train. It's a clear, cool morning. As crisp and refreshing as it is this far north, you brace yourself for the muggy summer heat down by Toronto. Your mind is buzzing with all that has transpired over the last few days. Feels like you're returning home from a long voyage. You can't help but wonder, did you miss anything? Did you leave any loose ends? Would you like to be privy to some helpful introspective thoughts? Yes or no? Nah. You feel confident and satisfied with all you've done in Crimson. You watch the landscape whiz by and drift off into a contented sleep. Ranger Murdoch meets you at Union Station as arranged. Ranger Murdoch! Hello, Nancy. It's good to see you again. Would you like me to drive you home to rest? No, thanks. I'm eager to have my interview. Let's go. Right. Follow me. You look over at the wanted poster on the bulletin board and see a familiar face. This face has familiar features, but the expression gives you pause. It's unmistakably Margot, but she looks scared and angry, and the name is different too. This Margot, the Margot you knew was at peace, kind and caring. You feel fortunate to have met her when you did. The poster lists her offenses as assault, theft, racketeering, public nuisance. Nancy? Sorry, just lost in thought. Ah yes, that person has been on the most wanted list for a few years now. Skagway was a near lawless place. Sometimes who the criminals were was a matter of public opinion. And sometimes if you didn't make friends with the right people, you can get stuck with all sorts of trumped up charges. Does she look familiar to you? No, I don't recognize her. Very well, let's begin. Suddenly the door bursts open to reveal your boss, Professor Plummer. Nancy, there you are. Welcome back. I'd heard the train had come in. Sir, we're in the middle of a confidential interview. My apologies. Won't be a moment. Nancy, what did you find? Are there any diamonds and chrismons? I must know. Yes or no? No, I'm not telling him. I'm afraid I didn't find anything significant, Professor. I managed to obtain some good samples, though, and I think I'll be able to produce a good report for my fieldwork. It just won't be very exciting. I'm sorry to hear that, Nancy. As for exciting, most research isn't. Don't worry too much about it, that. Come see me when you're ready, and I'll help you with your report. Thanks so much, Professor Plummer. Take care, Nancy. See you soon. Okay, let's really begin. Any information you provide will be kept strictly confidential, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it. We've detained Nessa Crab in the connection with Evan and kidnapping, Margot's murder, and attempted fraud. According to Mr. Richards, he was assaulted at the jetty, but it was dark out and he was rather inebriated. Do you have any evidence to connect Nessa to the scene at the jetty? Yes or no? Just a second. Yeah, the decanter. I found Nessa's fingerprints on the shattered crystal decanter at the jetty. It was made of thick glass. It wouldn't have broken from being tipped over or dropped from carrying height. I think Nessa had a confrontation with Evan on the jetty, during which she forcibly threw the decanter down, causing it to break. Well done, Nancy. Our investigator found that broken decanter and came to a similar conclusion. Did you find anything in the area besides the jetty that would connect Nessa to Evan's kidnapping? Yes or no? Shoe prints? I found Nessa's shoe prints in the wooded area near the jetty. How do you know the shoe prints belong to Nessa? I learned the shoe size of everyone at the lodge. She's the only one who wears that size and style of shoes. That's some good detective work, Nancy. We knew about the shoe prints because we took prints of Nessa's shoes when we took her into custody. I tracked Nessa's shoe prints to the smokehouse. I think that's where she and Corvus temporarily detained Evan until they were ready to take him to the garnet mine. Do you have anything else to share that could connect Nessa to Evan's kidnapping in areas other than the jetty? Hair. I recovered these hairs from the wood north of the jetty. I'm pretty confident they belong to Nessa. You hand the long gray-brown hairs over to Ranger Murdoch. Wow, our investigators didn't find any hairs. I'll send someone over to take another look. The bulbs of these hair are intact. That means they need to be ripped from the scalp with some force. That's definitely implies she was part of a struggle in that area. I'm gonna have to keep these hairs, Nancy. Of course. So is there any others? Yeah. Almonds. I discovered Nessa's fingerprints on a Jordan almond fragment in the smokehouse, right on the candid shells. That's fantastic, Nancy. Our ranger saw those Jordan almond fragments and noted them down, but they clearly didn't look closely enough at them. I'll tell the team to take a second look. Terrific. I think that's all the information I have about Nessa and the areas around the jetty. Okay, let's move on. We believe Mr. Richards was being held in the lodge smokehouse before being moved to the garnet mine. Did you find everything in this report regardless of its unlawful confinement? Yes. Rope fibers. Yes, I found rope fibers on the floor of the smokehouse. I believe he was tied up and then taken away later. Yes, Mr. Richards has said as much. All the evidence we can gather will help us build a case against Nessa. How would you figure out that Mr. Richards was taken to the garnet mines? If you're not sure, you can just say yes and no or pass. Mr. Richard used the jam from Jack's thumbprint cookies to draw a hidden symbol. The symbol was a red circle surrounded by a round red border. Red? It was raspberry jam. I smelled it. It smelled lovely. The symbol even resembled the thumbprint cookies, which I learned are called Hollangrata in Swedish. Hollangrata means raspberry cave in English, and a raspberry cave could be a garnet mine. Exactly. Mr. Richard was talking about the garnet mines at dinner on the night I arrived in Crimson. He said they'd been deserted for years. It was the perfect place for them to hide him. Mr. Richard told us that Nessa was attempting to intimidate him into signing a forged copy of his will. Do you have any knowledge that might back his claim? Yep, the almonds. Mr. Richards is allergic to almonds and has been since childhood. It was common knowledge, and Nessa brought Jordan almonds with her when she returned to the lodge. I found shattered pieces of Jordan almonds in the smokehouse where I believe Mr. Richard was briefly held. I managed to recover one of Nessa's fingerprints from them. Stellar work, Nancy. Our investigators didn't find that. What's more, there were more Jordan almonds pieces in the cabin where Nessa brought him. There's no doubt in my mind that Nessa brought the Jordan almonds in the lodge, knowing full well how dangerous they were to Mr. Richards. Maybe at first she only planned to intimidate them with him, but in the end, she was prevented from doing any worse. Let's move on to Corvus Shaw's role in the kidnapping. Do you have any evidence that connect him? The button? I found this metal button which I recovered from outside the smokehouse. I observed Corvus wearing a striped vest with the exact type of button that was very same night. If you examine the clothing he was wearing at the time, I'm sure you'll find out one of the buttons is missing. We did indeed make note of the missing button, and now we know what happened to it. It's a very good piece of evidence, Nancy. May I have it? Of course. Do you have any other evidence? The shoe print. I found Corvus' shoe print in the jetty, in the woods, leading away from the jetty and leading into the smokehouse. The shoe prints on the jetty must have been formed when he stepped into the spilt whiskey, and they were still wet. That suggests to me that he was either present during the abduction of Mr. Richards or soon after. Considering the scut marks I saw on the jetty, Mr. Richards was dragged away for some force. I doubt Nessa, an elderly lady, could have dragged her brother away with that amount of force. That's terrific work, Nancy. Our investigators didn't see any shoe prints on the jetty. They must have dried up before we got there. But now that we know they're there, perhaps some forensic process can help reveal them. I think Corvus' movements during that time are pretty clear. Very sure of you. Every bit helps. I think that's all the information I have about connecting Corvus to the crimes against Mr. Richards. Okay, let's move on. What about any lesser crimes? We suspect Corvus was brought to the lodge by Nessa to commit fraud. Do you know anything else that will help us with that case? Yep. I found Mr. Richards' last will and testament in Corvus' satchel. It stated that Nessa was to get everything after his death, although it hadn't been signed by Mr. Richards and the writing was in Corvus' hand. That seemed pretty fishy to me. Very interesting. Do you happen to have that document? I do. Here you go. You hand the questionable document over to the ranger. Thanks, Nancy. You're welcome. And what about Carl Leffer, aka Albert Respa? What can you tell me about him? Rangers apprehended him in the middle of his sabotage attempt on the Sulak, so that's an open and shut case. But we suspect the man's involved in other illegal acts. Do you think you can attribute our... Yep. Yes, I do. Please continue. What have you discovered? I revealed indentation of what was written on the paper that were on the top of this one. Both were mineralogical reports by Albert. Only one, and one said there were diamonds in crimson, and the other said there were none. Why would that be? I suspect Albert wasn't actually a mineralogist at all, and that neither report is valid. He was scamming Nathan and Nessa. Carl, I mean. I'm sorry, it's hard to keep everything straight. That's okay, Nancy, you're doing great. I found a field report in Carver's satchel that was identical to the indentation on the paper in the paper basket. I was able to read the full field report, and it's clear to me that Albert was stringing terms together without knowing what they actually meant. Fascinating. You wouldn't happen to have that field report, would you? As a matter of fact, I do. You hand the field report over to Ranger Murdoch. Great work, Nancy. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Any mineralogist can tell you that. The Geological Survey of Canada would never endorse it. I'll be writing my own field report, which I'm hoping the Royal Canadian Museum will publish. I'm proud of the work I did. With any luck, my report will be a newly definitive survey of Crimson, Ontario. Sorry, I got a bit carried away. Back on topic. I saw Carl, hand a manila envelope to Nessa during a meeting in the gazebo. She paid him handsomely for it. She said she paid for a report that says there are diamonds in crimson. He said the report would make her rich. She certainly would have. I'd bet she entrusted the field report to Corvus for safekeeping. I was witness to a secret meeting in the boathouse between Nathan and Albert. I certainly clearly heard Albert saying the contents of the envelope he was carrying was a report signed and sealed, that there were no diamonds in crimson. Nathan paid him for this version of the field report. My theory is that Albert was scamming Nathan and Nessa. He figured he could make some quick money off of the both of them. He wasn't seriously conducting field work. He didn't even know how. And he knew he'd be kilometers away from and before either Nathan or Nessa found out. Would you like to take those crumpled papers into evidence? Yes, indeed. You hand the crumpled papers over to the ranger. If you have something else to tell me about Leffler, just say so or no. Luggage. I found his train stub in one of the jackets he left behind before he fled the lodge. When I saw him on the platform in Crimson, I mentioned I hadn't seen him on the train. He told me he'd been in first-class car, which was a lie. His ticket stub clearly says coach, same as mine and Kimmy's. And what's more, I found his fingerprints on the ticket stub, clear as day. I also remember smelling cigar smoke in the coach car, the same brand that Albert smokes. I vaguely remember a man directly behind Kimmy and I for part of the journey up to Crimson. He was concealed by a newspaper. I never saw his face. I think he overheard me and Kimmy talking about Crimson and why we were traveling there. He must have been afraid I'd be able to reveal him as an imposter if I had my field kit, so he got rid of it while me and Kimmy were sleeping. I think he tossed my luggage out the back of the train. That would be the easiest way to dispose of it, serendipitously. He then hid in the neighboring first-class car when it was empty, near the end of our journey. Well, and very well deduced, Nancy. It just so happens Rangers found your luggage near the train tracks between Crimson train station and the previous stop. Oh my goodness, they did? Yes, your name was found on a tag inside everything inside. Everything is intact. That's wonderful news. I'm afraid I'd have to save up for another field kit. Your luggage is still an exhibit in the ongoing investigation into Carl Leffler. We found some fingerprints on the inside and outside of the luggage. We'll be needing to fingerprint you while you're here at the station, so we can separate your prints from those of the suspects. After the case is wrapped up, we'll return your luggage to you, of course. I understand. Thank you, Ranger Murdoch. Do you have the sticker stub you found? If so, may I have it? Of course. Here you go. You hand the train ticket stub over to Ranger Murdoch. How about the cigar butt, Nancy? It could prove helpful too. Certainly. You give the cigar butt to the ranger. You have anything else to be telling me? Bridge. I think Carl sabotaged the train bridge. On the same strip of telegraph tape that revealed Albert's real name and next target for sabotage, it said, "Well done in crimson." I found a stick of dynamite under his bed. I think it rolled there when he was panicking to hurriedly leave the lodge. On the way to the lodge on that first night in crimson, Jack commented on how heavy Carl's set of luggage was. I bet most of Carl's luggage was dedicated to hauling explosive equipment, dynamite and blasting caps. In fact, I found a tin of blasting caps that Carl left in the lodge, as well as a bullet. He was definitely up to no good. He stored the blasting caps and bullet in the blue trunk in the upstairs closet. I found his fingerprints on the padlock. Outstanding. Very well done. Gee, say, Carl's fingerprints is on one of the tin of blasting cap. He definitely handled them. Excellent work, Nancy. May I have the tin? It's very compelling evidence. Of course. Here you go. He handed the tin of blasting caps over. Carl knew to store the dynamite separately from the blasting cap. He probably had some training with explosive, or at least some prior knowledge, and I'm almost certain that if Rangers search the immediate area around the bridge, they'll discover discarded luggage, possibly part of the same set, with explosive residue inside. This is very helpful information. We originally suspected Leffler of the bridge sabotage, but hadn't sought to search the luggage that matches the set he was carrying when we arrested him at the Sulaks. That would be a very compelling connection to make, should we find such an item. Speaking of item, do you happen to have the telegraph tape? I do. Here you go. You give the telegraph tapes to Ranger Murdoch. Thanks, Nancy. You have the bullet you discovered? Absolutely. Here it is. You hand the bullet to Ranger Murdoch. Thanks, Nancy. You have the padlock with the fingerprints on it? That would help strengthen our case against Mr. Leffler. I do. Here you go. Amazing work, Nancy. I think that's all I have to share about Carl Leffler. Fair enough. Let's move on to something else. And finally, Margot's death. Margot's murder. It does appear to be the case. We are looking into it. Do you have any evidence you'd like to give that could help us make a case for Margot's murder? Just a second. I took the sample of Margot's hair after she died. I'd read that hair analysis can sometimes help determine cause of death. Yes, indeed. I can't make any promises, but this could help us with our investigation. You hand the lock of hair over to Ranger Murdoch. Thanks. Do you have anything else to show me? I saw Nessa bring a jug and a drinking glass to Margot's and Baudelaire. That struck me as suspicious because there was no love lost between them. Later, after some of the water evaporated, a white residue was left behind. Yes, that is very suspicious. May I have this, Nancy? Our lab will want to analyze it. Here you go. You hand over the drinking glass. Thanks. Do you have anything else to show me? I recovered this jam jar from the river by Crimson Lodge. I think it's a key piece of evidence against Nessa regarding Margot's poisoning. You hand the jam jar over to Roger Murdoch. Thanks, Nancy. What can you tell me about it? There's a powdery and white residue inside, along with a bit of flypaper. It'd be very interesting to learn what the residue is, though I wouldn't be surprised if it's arsenic. Really? Yes, the box for the flypaper strips warn that they contain arsenic. Pretty dangerous stuff. We'll find out one way or another. Thanks, Nancy. I found a fingerprint on the outside of the jam jar. It's Nessa's fingerprint. This could go a long way towards Nessa to Margot's death, and very possibly to be ruling the death of poisoning. Excellent work. What's more, I overheard Nessa having a conversation with Corvus in the apple orchard. She admitted to soaking flypaper in a glass jar to obtain the poison, storing it in her flask, and tossing the jar over the waterfall. That's pretty incriminating, especially if the evidence can back up your story. In fact, we confiscated silver flasks from Mrs. Crabbe when we took her into custody. We'll be sure to test it for poisonous substances. Thanks. Do you have anything else to show me? I found this empty box of flypaper in the garden shed. After reading its tiny warning label, I discovered that flypaper contains arsenic. Jack maintained a supply of flypaper at the lot, but it is the only box that was in the shed. And this box looks crisp and new, but empty. I suspect Nessa was stealing flypaper and extracting arsenic from it. An interesting scenery there, Nancy. May I take this box as evidence? Of course. You give the empty box of flypaper to the ranger. That's all the evidence I have to show you. I firmly believe Nessa murdered Margot with poison, and I firmly believe Nessa should stand trial for her crimes. Margot deserves justice. You clearly feel very strong about this. Were you a close friend of hers? How I felt about her doesn't matter. What happened was wrong. I agree. I will get to the bottom of this, Nancy. I promise. You head home after completing your interview with Ranger Murdoch and immediately set to work on your field report of Crimson. You write out at length about the sample you've obtained and the observation you made, though you do leave out a few details, such as that there are diamonds in Crimson, and Crimson diamonds at that. Professor Plummer proves to be an enthusiastic and patient mentor, despite his mild disappointment at the unremarkable finding. You impressed him with your attention to detail and hard work. Together, you produce an impeccable field report that is published by the Royal Canadian Museum and eventually endorsed by the Geological Survey of Canada. Your first publication, Nancy, a real feather in your cap. Weeks pass. Soon you're immersed in your regular life. You become an expert on the filing system and even suggest some ways to improve it. You find yourself missing the fresh air, the roaring waterfall, and rushing rivers of Crimson. You wonder if you'll ever hear about how things are going up there. Until one day... There you are, Nancy. I thought today's newspaper might be of interest to you. You start reading the newspaper. The largest article is about Nancy Kraft. She's being charged with Margot's murder, her brother's kidnapping, and attempted fraud. The article mentions that Nessa's alleged accomplice Corvassar is being charged for his role in Margot's murder, Evan's kidnapping, assault, and attempted fraud. You're relieved to see no mention of Crimson anywhere. Not even the smallest news items. You figure no news is good news. There's no mention at all about Albert Carl's attempted sabotage in the Sioux locks, only that there will be minor delays due to routine maintenance. They probably want to make sure there aren't any more explosives in and around the locks had Albert succeeded. You shudder to think of it. You skim the rest of the newspaper, but nothing else catches your eye. That's a relief, I suppose. Bit of a lengthy ending. Too bad about the whole diamond fiasco, eh, Nancy? But we both knew it was a long shot. Good work today, kiddo. See you tomorrow, bright and early. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You start the long walk home. You're relieved that Crimson won't become an open pit mine, and that Kimmy and her comrades are safe and happy. We'll get there, Tavia. Oh, I love this little cameo! Hiya, Nancy. Another late night, eh? I got a bit of stew saved for you. Kept it nice and warm on the stove. Thanks, Mrs. Williams, as in Roberta Williams, creator of so many of the Sierra Adventure games, including Laura Bow, of which this game is an homage to. Oh, I'm starving. Go on in, lass. I'll serve it up. I'll be down in a bit. Okay, lass. Take your time. That is a cute cameo. Mrs. Williams ladles a hearty bowl of stew and slices a bit of bread for you. The food is delicious and warms you to the bone. She sits with you and the two of you chat about the goings-on in the neighborhood. You're grateful she rents you a room so cheaply. Museum clerks don't get paid very much. Once your belly is full and Mrs. Williams has washed the bowl, she waves you away from this menial task. You step lightly upstairs, lest you wake the other lodgers. You fall asleep as your head hits the pillow. You're exhausted, and tomorrow will be an exhaustive day. Another exhausting day. Aww. But every exhausting day is another step closer to making your dreams come true. Well done, Nancy. Ah, but we're still not done! The next morning... You pick up the envelope. It's from Mr. Richards. There's a bit of bulk to it. You're surprised the envelope fit under the door. You open the envelope and read the letter inside. The letter reads, "Dear Nancy, I hope you're well. Me and Jack are doing well, and so is Kimmy. She's been helping out around the lodge. I'm grateful. Kimmy still plans on staying to see what the fall bird migration will look like in Crimson. I've told her about the birds I've seen in the previous years, and she seems excited. You're a good soul. Now that things have calmed down and I've had time to rest and think on things, I want to say thank you. I've got no doubt you'll make your way in this world and succeed on your own terms. And thank you especially for caring about what happened to Margot and doing something about it. Nessa will be behind bars the rest of her life. From what I hear, she quite likes the strict rules and routine. I'm just relieved that Nessa will never intrude on my life ever again. Thanks. My gal Margot lived a whole other life before she met me. I know all about it, and she told me. I knew she was sick. None of it mattered to me. I just wish I died first. But never mind about the past, Nancy. Let's talk about the future. Margot is a very successful businesswoman up in Skagway, which is what brought her unwanted attention from unsavory people. She had to do certain things to protect herself, including leaving town quick. She had to leave some things behind. She buried them and told me where. Now I'm telling you where. Coordinates and directions enclosed. If you're up for an adventure, seek out what she buried. It's all yours. You earned it. But wait for spring to set in and take the time to plan the journey. Skagway's a long way away, so I've enclosed something to help pay your way there. Take it to a jeweler who has deep pockets and sell it. If you'd rather not make the trek to Skagway, sell it and use it to pay your education, your dreams, or just enjoy life. It's up to you. Nathan sends his regard, which reminds me, I've already transferred ownership of the lodge and lands to Nathan. Should have done that a long time ago. I'm living in his house now. We all are. Take care, Nancy. You're welcome at the lodge anytime. Nathan said so, and so do I. Signed, Evan Richards. You unwrap the little bundle of clothes and cloth and are stunned to find yourself holding Margot's white garnet necklace. Oh, this probably isn't a garnet. You can't resist the call to adventure. You sell the necklace and spend the bleak, monotonous winter months in the city planning a trip to Skagway. At long last, the weather becomes warmer. You book a train trip out west. By the time you arrive in Vancouver, it's the start of summer. You manage to book passage on a large fishing vessel up through the Georgia Strait, along the coast of British Columbia and into Alaska. From there, it's a quick jaunt to the Lynn Canal on a smaller fishing vessel and into Skagway proper. The fisherman drops you off at the dock bright and early and tells you to pick you up at the end of his workday, after which you spend the night in Juan. You head into the wilderness, fending off the largest black flies you've ever seen. Eventually, you find the spot that Evan described in his letter. Here it is. Let's see what Margot left us, shall we? This is it. Dig. You excitedly use your trusty trowel to dig under the bush. You don't have to dig very far before you hit a wooden cigar box. Oh? Inside a cigar box, you find a purple velvet drawstring bag and an envelope. There's a letter inside the envelope. You unfold and start reading aloud. If you're reading this, that it means I never made it back here to retrieve this box. That could be me for any reasons, but the two that preoccupy my mind are following. Number one, that I've managed to find a place where I belong, among people who love me, and I never felt the need to return. The other reason is that I'm dead. It's actually two to both those reasons. But, seeing as this is in the middle of nowhere, I'm going to hope that you are someone I care about, and that I told you about this. Whomever you are, friend or stranger, whether you came by this by love or luck, you're welcome to it. All I ask is that you tell no one where it came from, because I did find the contents of this bag near Skagway in a secret spot. One day, I hope this area will recover from the harm that was caused by the gold rush, by people like me. It is my fervent wish that nature reclaim Skagway and that the waters will run clear once more. Be well, signed, Margot. You carefully open the drawstring bag. Inside you find gold nuggets of varying sizes, the largest of which is as big as a walnut. Oh, wow! You take the bag of gold nuggets and put them in your pocket. It doesn't feel right to leave the box empty. With a flash of inspiration, you realize exactly what you should do. You place the samples from Crimson into the cigar box. Well, the ones with diamonds in them, and particularly the ones with crimson diamonds. Back into the ground where they belong. I'll keep your secret, Margot, if you'll keep mine. Well done. You carefully rebury the cigar box under the bush. Margot picked a perfect spot to conceal her treasure. Even now, you can hardly tell where you've just dug. I suppose that's that. You take one last look at the mountains and rolling hills and wonder what Margot was thinking and how she was feeling as she stood in this spot. I wish I could have told you about the peaceful, beautiful place you find and the people you meet who cared about you. Goodbye, Margot. Goodbye. You trek back to the dilapidated dock. The fisherman is waiting for you, his net full of halibut. You thank him for waiting. Tell him you had a lovely hike and boarded his vessel. It's time to go home. Who? You couldn't resist keeping one of the blazingly bright red crystals. Your assumptions were all correct and supported by what you've seen and learned. Bravo! You scored 24 points out of 24 during your pre-departure ponderings. You performed flawlessly in your interview with the Ranger. Excellent work. You scored 19 points out of 19 during your interview with Ranger Murdoch. You thoroughly and expertly investigated and reported on Margot's death. Well done. You scored 8 out of your Margot points for your Margot investigation. Congratulations. You answered all the questions correctly. You truly are a super sleuth. Carl Lepler, aka Albert Respa, was tried and found guilty of sabotage of the railway bridge, attempted sabotage of the Solocks, espionage, fraud, theft, and a litany of minor charges. He was incarcerated at Kingston Penitentiary until his death 12 years later of a heart attack. The Solocks were patrolled by the Northwest Mounted Police for the duration of the Great War, and no other sabotage attempts were made. Thanks to his vigilance, Canadian supply lines along the Great Lake waterways remained uninterrupted. This played an part in the Commonwealth's war effort and crucially contributed to the Allied victory. Corvus Shaw was found guilty of being an accomplice in Evan's kidnapping, forgery, and attempted fraud. You helped clear him of charges involving Margot's death because you've been privy to the conversation he had with Nessa in the orchard. He was disbarred and served 5 years in a medium security prison. Upon release, grateful for your assistance in partially clearing his name, he dedicated himself to community service. Good man! Margot was laid to rest in Crimson's lushly overgrown cemetery in an informal service attended by Evan, Jack, Nathan, and Kimmy. It was a consolation to the attendees that Nessa was brought to justice for all of her crimes. Kimmy and Kishiro stayed on the lodge until after the autumn migration of birds, when she returned to Vancouver to be with her family. From then on, she'd visit Crimson for the spring and autumn migrations, as well as the cormorant's nesting season every summer. Jack remained at the lodge, continuing to take care of it. After Evan illegally transferred the lodge and lands to Nathan Cardinal and his family. When Jack became old and creaky, the Cardinals in turn took care of him. Nathan Cardinal and Evan Richards arranged the transfer of the lodge and lands to the Cardinal family, effective immediately. Considering recent events, they agreed it was a good idea. The secret of the Crimson Diamonds remained hidden. Nessa Crabb was found guilty of Margot's murder, the attempted murder of Evan, kidnapping, and attempted fraud. She was sent to the newly constructed northwest wing of Kingston Penitentiary, earning the unenviable distinction of being one of the most serious female offenders to be incarcerated there. She died behind bars before serving her full sentence. Evan Richards peacefully lived the rest of his days in his beloved lodge. Upon his death, He was buried alongside Margot and his parents in Crimson, which is exactly what he wanted. Crimson remained a haven for the wildlife of all kinds. You continue working diligently as a clerk at the Royal Canadian Museum. Eventually, you were accepted at the University of Toronto in the Department of Geology and Paleontology as an undergraduate. Professor Plummer spoke highly of your field work in Crimson in his letter of recommendation. Although your findings weren't revolutionary, he tells you that impeccable, exhaustive work, regardless of results, is the bedrock of any scientific discipline, and that he's very proud of you. A few months later, you receive a letter from Ranger Murdoch, praising your investigative prowess and tenacity in bringing Margot's killer to justice and helping to foil the sabotage attempt at the Sioux Locks. He says you're a natural detective and that he hopes your paths will cross again someday. You keep the secret of Crimson Diamond, though sometimes you wonder what your life could have been like had you published your findings. You sleep well at night, knowing you've helped to preserve a beautiful place. Thanks for playing. Incredible game. That was an amazing game. Julia, if you watch this, you did a fantastic job here. This was chef's kiss, incredible. The writing, so much of it was very good. It has the traditional Sierra deaths, but it's not overloaded with them. There's clearly multiple paths, endings and everything. I try my hardest for the best ending. And just so much more about this, which is so dang good. The artwork, you can tell that Julia put a lot of effort into the artwork here. And all the programming, how smoothly it does the automatic, you type in it and she just walks over there, no hang-ups, no nothing. She's able to simplify something and yet be able to make it still just as important. And just, wow. This was just fantastic. Utterly fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. You guys should get it for yourself. Play through it yourself. It's still $10 as of right now, and just have a good time. Play it, enjoy yourself. It is well worth it, especially if you're an old school adventure game fan, and if you're a Laura Bow fan, because this is just so much fun. Everything about this was well done. It is a great length. Everything about it was done. It was done to and to be able to be good for people who have not played those old games, but it doesn't hold their hands that much. So yeah, overall, just such a good game. And I thank you all for joining in on this one. Thank you all for watching. If you guys want to, be sure to join. If you want to support me, be sure to either send a super chat or join a membership. Any little bit helps, and I'll be